Last video I talked about the koala, arguably one of Australia's most iconic yet useless animals. However, in this video I'm going to be taking a step back from the wildlife and focus on the domestic animal world because it's actually quite interesting contrary to what most people believe. Today I'm going to be going over 6 popular pet rodents and determine which of those is the most well-rounded and suited for human companionship based on how well they work with humans. Because I honestly do think that rodents are quite overlooked and they do deserve a lot more respect than they get. For my last place pick, I chose the mouse, which is the poster child of all rodents. Mice are generally seen as wild pests, but they can also be kept as pets. However, I do think that they're the overall worst pet rodent of the 6 that I chose for this video. Now, keep in mind that just because I put mice last doesn't make them horrible pets. If anything, most rodents are really good at thriving in their natural habitat. Keyword most. So I definitely look up to them. Most pet rodents require little maintenance, so they're quite easy to take care of as well. The mouse's small size means that they're prone to being injured by young children quite easily, and despite being more active and social than hamsters are, they're less predictable. Keeping 2 males together will often result in frequent fighting as well, and males often have a bad odor, and in a similar fashion to hamsters, mice don't care too much about human companionship, and thus many will find them to be somewhat boring pets. Overall, if I had to give the mouse a score, I would give it a 6 out of 10. It's a decent pet, but there are definitely much better options, and honestly the cons kind of outweigh the pros. Still, not bad. Now, for my number 5 choice, I went with the hamster, which is the most commonly chosen rodent when deciding on a pet. Unlike mice, their behavior is more predictable, and they often spend time alone in cages, so raising them is actually extremely easy. However, this doesn't take away from the fact that hamsters don't work very well with humans, particularly children, who will most likely want a hamster as a pet, as they're generally seen as starter pets. Hamsters are solitary, small, and nocturnal creatures who often like spending time alone, without human interaction. Hamsters, in fact, will often fight if paired in the same cage as a result of their territorial behavior. Also, due to their nocturnal lifestyle, they don't really care to be outside during the day, and thus, similarly to mice, most children won't bond with them too much. Their small bodies don't complement the unpredictable and bashful nature of most children. However, of course, there are certainly some pros. They don't need a ton of food, so you won't have to restock on hamster food very often, and of course, them being a low maintenance pet, they don't require too much supervision, so if you're a lone adult, the hamster is actually a pretty decent pet. Overall, hamsters are definitely a mixed bag, and a lot of the problems with mice certainly carry on to the hamster. On one hand, their small and fragile bodies make them a not so good choice for young children who might end up killing or seriously injuring them. However, for older people, their short lifespans mean that they're a short-term commitment, so the hamster is definitely a solid choice for a first pet if you're an adult, since they don't need much care and they don't need much food. So if I had to rate the hamster, I would give it a 6 out of 10. Same rating as the rat, but I do think that it is a slightly better pet in the fact that it is a little more predictable in behavior. However, you should definitely consider who will be raising the pet, as hamsters aren't a pet for everyone. Now, no offense to the mouse and hamster, but anything that's number 4 and up is just way better than them. And for my number 4 pick, I chose the gerbil. And there isn't a lot to say about it, to be honest. It's just a way better hamster. Its small size does mean that they're still prone to being injured, however, if handled incorrectly, but unlike the mouse, gerbils don't produce an odor, and unlike the hamster, gerbils are quite social creatures and can bond with both adults and children quite quickly. Another pro is that they don't excrete waste as much as hamsters and mice do, which is a result of the fact that in their natural desert habitat, gerbils have to conserve water. The only real flaws with them is that they're not the easiest pet to obtain. The fact that some species of domestic gerbil are illegal in the United States, and they tend to gnaw on items in their cage quite a lot. But honestly, other than that, the gerbil is just way better than a hamster, and if you're able to find one, and if a gerbil is legal in your state, if you live in the United States, yeah, definitely a really good pet. I would give it a 7 out of 10. Now, remember how I was talking about the gerbil being just a way better hamster? Well, the rat is basically that. A superior mouse. Look, now, I know that rats have a bad reputation in the wild for being a dirty, cunning sewer creature, but domestic rats are anything but that, and are actually very different from the wild sewer rats. Domestic rats are really underrated, with each individual having a unique personality. To further complement their intelligence, they're also social animals, meaning that they bond with their owners quite well with time, and due to being larger than mice, they're much more resistant to injuries from young children. Now, of course, there is one major drawback, which is the odor. Rats secrete a natural odor in the fur that is very noticeable, which means that similarly to an outdoors dog, it's a good idea to give an occasional bath. Still, I think it's a very solid pet. Now, I do want to save some stuff for wild rats in a future video, so I'm going to stop here. I think rats in general are very interesting and are very overlooked. I'd give the domestic rat an 8 out of 10. It's definitely a good pet. I think the rat is probably one of the better choices if you're going for a rodent. Now, we are left with the two best rodent pets that work best with humans. The chinchilla and the guinea pig. And honestly, it can go both ways here. I think both are really great pets, and in terms of companionship with humans, they are both very, very, very good time investments, and you will not regret getting them. However, this is a ranking video, so I'm gonna have to pick one. Now, for my number 2 pick, I'm gonna have to go with the chinchilla. Sorry, chinchilla lovers, but I do think that the guinea pig is a slightly better pet, and I do think that guinea pigs are much more accessible than chinchillas. Now, honestly, I don't really have too much to talk about the chinchilla because I pretty much said everything else in the video. So yeah, basically very good companions, independent, very clean, and they do live quite long. However, this doesn't mean that there are any downsides, because chinchillas are not nearly as affectionate as guinea pigs are and panic more easily, and of course they're more expensive and require a larger cage. So overall, I do think that the chinchilla is a really good pet, especially for a rodent. I just think that the guinea pig is a better pet in a lot of ways, and those ways I will get to very soon. And of course, obviously for number 1, I went with the guinea pig, and this may not seem like a surprise for a lot of you watching, and honestly, I think the guinea pig is easily the best pet rodent. Unlike chinchillas, guinea pigs are very affectionate, and each individual has its own personality. They're quite intelligent, although not as intelligent as rats are. I still do think that they work with humans the best out of the 6 rodents listed. They're pretty accessible, they're not that hard to find, and they are quite cheap. However, of course, there are still a few cons, so the guinea pig is by no means a perfect pet, but it is nonetheless a very good one. So one unique thing about the guinea pig is that they are not able to produce vitamin C naturally, unlike a lot of other mammals, meaning that they do need to eat vitamin C from external sources, similar to us. And of course, due to being a social animal, everybody knows this by 2 guinea pigs. But honestly, considering what a lot of people are looking for in a pet rodent, I think the guinea pig hits a lot of those marks, you know, being cute, being affectionate, and just being an overall really good pet. I think that the guinea pig is very accessible, and honestly, I mean, I really don't have a lot of criticisms for it. I think the guinea pig is very well-rounded, and interestingly enough, it seems to have pulled a lot of traits from the capybara. It being an emotional, intelligent animal, as well as it being a big social butterfly. I would give the guinea pig a 9 out of 10. I think it's definitely, in my opinion, the best domesticated rodent. So yeah, that's how I would rank the domestic rodents. Of course, this video was just for fun. Don't take it too seriously. I'm just trying to give an objective view of what I think are the best rodents and why their attributes make them so good for human companionship. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. And of course, I'd very much appreciate future video suggestions. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video, which will hopefully not take nearly as long as this one took.